Welcome to Big City, Small Town, the weekly podcast all about San Antonio and the people who make it go and grow. I'm your host, Bob Rivard. Here at Big City, Small Town, we will be focusing much more this year on UTSA and its continued growth and trajectory, and its importance to the city in elevating San Antonio's education outcomes. Our particular focus today and going forward will be on UTSA's high-profile merger with UTHealth San Antonio later this year. That's a process that's already well underway. The force behind the merger, the continuing expansion of UTSA's downtown campus, and many other advances at UTSA is its president, Dr. Taylor Amey, who arrived in San Antonio in his present position in 2017 and has served as a force of change and advancement ever since. President Amey has been appointed by the University of Texas Board of Regents as president of the two merged institutions. President Amey, welcome to Big City, Small Town.
Bob, it's a delight to be here, and I'm remembering back when I first met you because obviously you're a distinguished alum of UTSA, and I think we met right away when I first arrived back in September of 2017, and I've obviously deeply appreciated the passion that you have for our community and the things that you wanted to talk about higher ed and its impact in the community and where higher ed was going and where UTSA was going. So in many ways, I've been deeply connected to your passion and your support for our community. And I'm appreciative of all the kind things you've said about our institutions and our leadership teams and where we're going. You've hosted other colleagues of mine on this new podcast of yours. Well, 100 episodes in is a little special. It's not quite new. It's established. But it's a delight to be here and share this opportunity and this conversation with you. So I'm looking forward to it very much.
Thanks for those great words.
By the way, you're giving me way too much credit. I am surrounded by talent everywhere at my current institution, the University of Texas at San Antonio, but also now at the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio, which is an amazing institution. And the leadership that was in place under Dr. Henrich's period of leadership was profound. And I am the luckiest person in the world to be able to work with the leadership teams at both institutions. So it's not about me, it's about the collective us.
Well, we've had some really strong leaders from UTSA on the podcast, and we're going to have more because there's so much going on here in 2025 and beyond.
Actually, I'm going to want to volunteer some of my colleagues from UTHealth San Antonio to come on over and join the show too. So we'll work that out.
Dr. Francisco Cigarroa, are you listening?
Yeah.
We'd love to have you on, Cisco, and you can bring your guitar and play a little Spanish music for us.
There you go.
All right. Well, it's great to have you on. Thanks for the kind words. I think I speak for all the alums in the city. May I call you Taylor on the
please,
podcast?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think I speak for all the alums, Taylor, in saying how we are so excited about everything that's going on, probably more than we can even cover in one podcast. But let's get right to it. I'd like to just know where this merger is rooted. There's so many Tier 1 research universities around the country, public universities that do have medical schools. We've always had two distinct institutions, not just our medical school, but the dental school, the nursing school. There's a lot of resources out there, a lot of talent, and it's incredible to see it coming together. But I'm curious how it all came about.
Yeah, so there's a couple of threads to pull there. There was a thread that involves the passion in the community about this. You may recall back in 99 or 2000, Senator Letitia Vanderputte put forward some legislation to merge the two institutions. And I didn't realize this, but when I caught up with Letitia about it 6 or 8 months ago, she shared that ahead of her preparing her proposed bill, she had spent 5 days at the University of California, San Diego, UC San Diego, understanding how they manage their academic and health affairs enterprises in such a remarkable way, because as an institution, they were, they're only like 65 years old, and they have come such a far way in such short time. They're one of our aspirant peers as we think about the future. And the fact that she went and visited 25 years ago says a lot about her and about the kinds of thoughts that were on the table in the community. And the legislation didn't pass, but it did promote some collaborations between the two institutions around biomedical research which was important. But then there was one or two efforts to study this by the Board of Regents, and the principal effort maybe 17, 18 years ago. The timing is not perfect from my remembering it, but around then, maybe 15 years ago, a little longer, the board's study committee said, great idea, not the right time. And so there was interest in the community. And even when I was interviewing for the job at UTSA back in 2016, there was a op-ed in the Express News by Mayor Nuremberg and maybe Jim Reed. I'm trying to remember. It was folks like that, but it was when Ron was a city council member, and it was encouraging. No, it was actually Nelson Wolf and I think Jim Reed who put it together and talked to the then chancellor about it, and folks felt, it's not quite ready. But there was this kind of latent desire to see something like this happen in the community. But then separately, and perhaps more importantly, the Board of Regents under Chairman Eltief's leadership has been very, very active and creative in thinking about the best possible structuring and focus of the component institutions within UT system to meet the educational and workforce development and innovation and community engagement needs of the state of Texas. So if you look at the track record under Chairman Eltief, there was some earlier action around the creation of UT Rio Grande Valley from UT Pan American and UT Brownsville, and the medical school component from UTHealth San Antonio. That was back in 2015. But more recently, the merger of UT Tyler, UTHealth Tyler was one big thing. The acquisition of Stephen F. Austin University was another big thing. The creation of a new campus in Fort Worth for launching that for UT Arlington was a big thing. The collaboration between Dell Medical School at UT Austin and MD Anderson about building 2 new hospital towers for collaborative R&D in the cancer space up in Austin on the campus there is a very powerful thing. But in all honesty, this merger of our 2 institutions is probably going to be the biggest within UT System's history. And certainly from a national perspective, it's the largest academic merger of public or private institutions historically in the United States. So it's a big deal. And there's a whole reason why we really want to do this. And it comes down to the fact that the very best public research universities have within it the entire health affairs, academic medical center, health science center enterprise embedded in the fabric and structure and organization of the larger university, even though from a financial perspective or a scientific impact perspective, or in some ways even specialized educational attainment perspectives around preparing the health workforce of the future. In many ways, the larger component on all of these campuses is the health affairs enterprise. So if you were to look at the very best public research universities in the United States, Michigan, UNC, UCLA, Washington, UC San Diego, they all have this model. And so in some ways, Texas is somewhat unique to have a standalone health science center and a standalone academic institution. And it was so logical to bring the 2 together, especially with our positive trajectories. What we're really doing with this is not a consolidation effort at all. It's not 1 + 1 = 1.8. It's not even additive of 1 + 1 = 2. It is completely focused on building the foundation of a world-class university so that in 10 years we're competing with the UC San Diegos of the world and UCLAs of the world and the Michigans of the world. So we're thinking about this, even with all of the present challenges out in the world, that the model we're espousing is go big, 1 + 1 = 10. So that's where we're going with this.
Well, it seems exciting, especially fast-growing university, fast-growing city, fastest-growing city last year in the country.
Yeah, we're about to top Philadelphia and become the 6th largest city in the United States. I think that's going to happen this calendar year.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah.
Well, it'll put us on a map in a way that maybe we haven't been in the past. I was at a group of community leaders that were very excited about this that was held at Frost Bank about a month ago that you're aware of. And it was kind of amusing as a journalist to sit back and watch all of this brain power in the room try to determine what's it going to be called. And I think we all agreed it ought to be called UTSA after someone in the room said, well, nobody has to explain UCLA to anybody. You just say UCLA and you understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. I think you have to frame it this way. What we're doing involves both a component called merger and a component called integration. And the merger is sort of a legal definition, and it is driven by our accrediting body, where both institutions are accredited by SACS-COC, which is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges. SACS-COC accredits both of our institutions from an academic perspective on all the things we do to offer programs and the faculty we support and things like that. So it's our principal accreditor for both institutions. I mean, our engineering is accredited, our medical school is accredited, the dental school is accredited, nursing is accredited, everything is accredited, but the Uber accreditation comes from SACS-COC, and we have to go through a process with them whereby we submit to them a prospectus around the substantive change of really bringing UTHealth San Antonio into UTSA, and we're developing this prospectus. It will be submitted next month, and their board of SACS-COC will rule on the merger and approve it essentially in June. Our board will then act on their approval, and we've already worked out with SACS-COC that the official merger date will be September 1 of this year. That doesn't relate at all to the process of integrating two very big, very prominent, very positive trajectory institutions. And when you think about all the things that you could be merging related to finance, administration, operations, legal, governmental relations, communications and marketing, research, which will be obviously a huge component, risk management, athletics. Obviously, there's no athletics component on the UTHealth side, but there are a lot of fans over at UTHealth who love the Roadrunners. But in the big picture sense, we're taking two very complementary organizations. The health affairs component of UTHealth San Antonio is massive. The clinical enterprise is massive. They were involved in about 2.6 million patient visits last year, which is huge. And their relationship with University Hospital is really, really strategic and important. The launch of their new hospital, the multi-specialty research hospital, is also strategic and important. But their enterprise is so clinically focused and research focused, it actually complements what we do on the academic side with our huge undergraduate program, our huge graduate program, our increasingly important research program. And so the reason why these national models of excellence that I referred to earlier, like UCLA or UC San Diego or UNC Chapel Hill, are because they have these two components already blended together to make a superstar university. So that's why we're doing all this. And then the naming of all of this brings to bear all of these interesting cultural issues that relate to two institutions that have been marching forward inexorably with very positive trajectories, especially over the last 20 years. And so you have our athletic base that loves the concept of UTSA, and you have a health science center that is completely wedded to this notion of UTHealth San Antonio, making lives better. And so we're going to have to navigate the going forward with a name that is reflective of creating a new university. We're going to have a marketing and branding campaign that will culminate in an initial launch of the narrative about our new university on September 1. And the navigating all of this, including brand identity and taglines and color of emblems, and all of this still has to be navigated. But we are leaning towards this notion that the new university that we're creating and the process we'll work on to integrate all these components as we go forward will be something like our regential name will still be the University of Texas at San Antonio, but we have to come forward with a more common, proper name for us that will probably be UT San Antonio because we want to differentiate and really start to marquee the San Antonio component of it. And if you think about how most, if not all, of the other institutions in UT system are formally named separate from their regential name, there's this common vernacular of UT Austin, UT Dallas, UT El Paso. So we're going to migrate in a formal way away from UTSA, but we're going to continue to have UTSA yelled and screamed about at all of our athletic events, and I'm sure it's going to still be on gear and swag and whatnot. But we're really using this launch day on September 1 to start a narrative about being a world-class, top-tier, top 10 public research university. And it goes with a story that's compelling about why now and why us and why we are the future. But we're going to have a name that connotes change and new and bringing together two institutions and honoring the past and being ready for the future. So it's one of the most political things I've ever probably been involved in. If I survive it, we'll be pleased about it, but some will be pleased.
I think you're on the right track.
So.
I think UT San Antonio, we can all find common ground with that.
And truth is, a lot of the listening sessions that we're doing with our marketing and branding consultant, Profit, a lot of the conversation with our community, you were party to one of those conversations. That this has come up a lot, and there are camps that want to stay the same. There are camps that want new. There are camps that have ideas about new. But we've heard a lot of input from the community, separate from our two campuses, that the new name has to connote newness going forward for the new university, and it also has to be very emblematic of why we're so unique here in this part of the world, and getting the name San Antonio into that is really critical. We've heard that from all quarters.
I'm not surprised. I ask about the name. It is important, and maybe because it's the veneer of a much deeper issue, which is how do you integrate those two very distinct cultures, Taylor? And I should tell our audience members, this has been a very methodical process, and they can go to the UTSA websites. You have a month-by-month accreditation process laid out, month by month, who has to do what to make things happen. You've named your new cabinet. You've picked a very distinguished medical leader in the community, Dr. Francisco Cigarroa, the former.
I am so happy that when I pitched this to him, he graciously and elegantly and with great sense of service to the institutions and to the community and to who we serve, he was gladly able to say yes.
Here's someone who is a transplant surgeon, a rock star in his own realm medically, who rose to become the head of the UT system and the regions.
Actually, he
chancellor.
He came here in the early '90s as a young transplant surgeon, and he, to his credit, on weekends and even until recently, he was the acting dean of the Long School of Medicine. He was using up at least one of his weekends a month doing transplants and supporting all the colleagues that he recruited into the transplant center. It's a world-class transplant center, top 5 nationally. And so in the midst of his serving as the acting dean of the Long School of Medicine, he was still doing transplant. But if you go back to when he arrived and started doing transplants here in the early 90s, he progressed at an incredibly young age to become the president at UTHealth San Antonio. And then he answered a calling to become the chancellor of the University of Texas system. And he did that for, 8 or 10 years, something like that, and came back to be a transplant surgeon. And when the tragic loss of Dr. Henrich, with Dr. Romas being named from the Long School of Medicine acting president, Dr. Romas asked Dr. Cigarroa to step in and lead the Long School of Medicine as acting dean. So Francisco has had this marvelous career of service to the greater good, to the purpose of the institution, to really being sort of the moral compass and the philosophical compass and sort of the face of why we do what we do. So the fact that he's willing to step in now and serve as the senior executive vice president for health affairs and health system is a marvelous thing for our merged state, and it's a marvelous thing for our leadership team. And I am the luckiest guy in the world that I'm going to get a chance to work with him. I don't know if you know this, but when I was interviewing for the job here, I tell this story too often, but I can't help it. It's too good to not tell. When I was interviewing for the job here as president of UTSA back in 2016, he and Dr. Henrich and Dr. Guy Bailey, who's now the president at UT Rio Grande Valley, but who hired me when I first came to Texas in 2009, I became Bailey's vice president for research at Texas Tech. So Henrich, Figueroa, and Bailey were all on the search committee, and it was actually Dr. Henrich who asked me the hardest question. Dr. Figueroa and Dr. Bailey went easy on me, but I've had a chance to know Francisco obviously since then and since our time here in San Antonio. But I actually had met him a bunch of times when I was at Texas Tech, and he was the chancellor of UT system. And if you were to think about this nationally and the way he serves and the generosity of his selflessness of how he serves, I mean, he's world renowned for this in the pantheon of higher education. And we're just fortunate that he's ready to do this again. So,
well, I don't think you could have a stronger partner. And I think it matters enormously because for all of the exterior excitement about this, getting internal buy-in in any culture change is essential. And you have all these people that come from the public health and healthcare and medical world and science, and then academic education, and they've all got to come together and enthusiastically support the initiative to make it successful.
And I could spend a lot of time on this. Let me try and summarize it this way. The process of this coming to fruition and being announced by the Board of Regents last August was both a surprise and not a surprise to everybody. And as I reached out last August to the community that I was contacting, Dr. Romas, as acting president, was doing the same, and our two teams were doing this. I heard a lot of comments from the folks I connected with of, it's great, what took you so long? And, are you going to be the new UCLA? How long will that take? And this is the best thing for our community. And we need to actually talk about that for a second, about why this is important. But if you were to look at the two cultures and of our two institutions, there were obvious differences. The focus on healthcare provision and making lives better, and the research enterprise at UTHealth San Antonio is deeply embedded there, and it's foundational. It's in the DNA of the institution, and some of that overlaps with the DNA at UTSA. But on the other hand, the DNA at UTSA is about access to education, lifting lives up, research, and impacting the community, developing downtown. And if you cut to the core of what both institutions really care about the most, and what is sort of at the foundational level for our two mission statements, it's about the concept of using healthcare and health innovation to make lives better, or to use education to make lives better. And we had this massive, we have a whole structure in place on how we're integrating. We have a really large integration steering committee, an executive committee of it. We have launched all of these task forces and working groups that are methodically tackling this, and we'll continue to do this over the next probably 3 years as we work to integrate everything we'll integrate. But we had this massive aha moment at the integration steering committee when we all realized that if you pare away the focus on what's your version of excellence or what's our version of excellence, or where do we put our innovative resources, where do you put your innovative resources, why are you important to the world, why are we important to the world? If you cut out all of that important stuff and you look at the foundation for both, we had this aha moment of we're actually no different from each other. If you think about this concept of education makes lives better, healthcare and health innovation makes lives better. And then when that moment hit, late November, when we were working on all of these things we've been doing, it was like, this is the simplest thing in the world. It's the hardest thing in the world, but it's the simplest thing in the world. So all of our focus on change management and really getting everybody in our two communities the opportunity to buy in, to help craft and create the foundation for a new university will be part of this work in progress. But I don't want to call them impediments, but the logical collisions of two positive cultures would obviously have at the fringe or at the margin, these kind of interesting tensions, that's pretty much gone away. And it's like everybody understands now this notion, and I want to give Dr. Sigurdur all the credit in the world for crafting this. As he said, and as we've adopted, we are at an inflection point as we merge the two institutions and create a brand new university, 1 + 1 = 10. We are at an inflection point towards greatness. And who can argue with that, right? It's the perfect thing to think about. I mean, I'm going to be doing this for the next umpteen years. I can't think of something better to work on to create for our community. And I think one of the questions we should talk about a little bit is, why is this important to San Antonio?
Absolutely.
So I don't know if you want to riff on that for a sec, but because I've been talking too much.
I want to tell our audience, you mentioned that you were the former vice president of research at Texas Tech. And I don't think a lot of people, even people that know you, realize that you had senior research leadership positions at 3 different flagship universities, at Texas Tech, at University of Tennessee, University of New Hampshire.
Right.
And I remember actually a couple of years ago, Taylor, I had the opportunity to moderate a panel with you and Dr. Henrich at the time. And I think our colleagues from University Hospital and Southwest Research and
Adam Hamilton and Larry Schlesinger.
Yeah, yep. Texas Biomed. And I think it was titled the $1 Billion Research Combine, because that's together the kind of dollars you were bringing into the community, and equally important, the brain power that's here, that's educating tomorrow's leaders in the community, the students today. They wouldn't be here if they didn't have those research projects and the teams that those dollars support. So talk a little bit about research and why it matters.
Let me preface that first by making this observation. So our two institutions are relatively young. I don't remember our exact ages, but I think UTHealth San Antonio is like 61 years old, and UT San Antonio is like 56 years old. So in the grand scheme of things, from a public research university perspective, we're both relatively young. And we both come a long way in short order. And you want to compare ourselves to some of the very best and brightest newer universities like UC San Diego as a wonderful example. They started around the same time. And so our aspirations are to be like that within 10 years, to have a very bold trajectory going forward. But the fact of the matter is that our community, our city of San Antonio, our part of Texas deserves an institution like this because of how we serve and make lives better. We really have to be here for our community about how we educate and how we provide healthcare and innovations in healthcare. And given the population growth that's expected for San Antonio, never mind South Texas, we are coming together at the absolute right time. And every conversation I've had with community members about this, I hear these kinds of comments. You have great agency, Taylor. You and your colleagues have great agency to affect the trajectory of our community and to make an impact. And you're not creating an elite university. You're creating a university for our community here in Texas, our really the state of Texas and beyond. And what you do with this foundational moment as you pivot towards greatness, you have an obligation here to serve the community in a way that continues all that you do now that's so important. And so I think San Antonio deserves this and warrants this. It warrants it from an educational perspective, a health improvements perspective, an economic equity perspective. All of these things our community needs. And we view this opportunity as something that we are doing not only to create a world-class university, but it's to create a world-class university right here in San Antonio for our community, and it's going to serve our community going forward. So why do I have a lot of delight about this concept is the notion of bringing together our two research enterprise and how that can be so impactful in what we do and how we provide healthcare, especially in how we educate our workforce. And we haven't quite finished our planning and strategizing efforts around integrating the two academic enterprises and the two research enterprises. But the starting point of what we both have as institutions to work with is a cornucopia of opportunity. And it's really kind of heady to think about. I was just an hour or so ago giving a talk over at San Pedro One to a group of national collaborators around AI, and there's a big, huge component about AI applications in the healthcare industry, from the provision of healthcare to the understanding large data sets in public health research, to understanding opportunities to develop new drugs and therapies. And it really kind of goes back to your point about how the four institutions came together that at the time, which was maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Was it that long ago?
6 years ago, something like that.
Hope not.
It was Dr. Henrich and Adam Hamilton and Dr. Schlesinger and me, and it was the San Antonio Partnership for Precision Therapeutics. Well, we're going to continue to work with Texas Biomed and Southwest Research Institute, but now bringing together UTHealth San Antonio and UTSA is going to accelerate the collision that we have around drug discovery, around high-performance computing, large data sets, around biomedical engineering, tissue engineering, all the work that we collaboratively do together in brain health and neurodegenerative diseases, all the work that we do in obesity and diabetes, all the work that we do in the application of AI to medicine. So there's just a wealth of opportunities coming together. We've already organized a sort of collaborative centers ahead of merger to start working on these things, because our two faculty groups are so eager to come together to collaborate more. So I'm predicting that we will eventually have an opportunity to own the thought leadership space around the intersection of computing, AI, data, cyber, and medicine, and biomedical research, and medical healthcare provision. And the most transformative changes that will come in public health will come from the access of applications of AI to massively large data sets that relate to privately held health records, and being able to discern from health records the early onset of chronic disease so that interventions can happen sooner rather than later. And in all honesty, that was the reason why the four of us created the San Antonio Partnership for Precision Therapeutics. And we're really just accelerating this now by virtue of coming together as a merged institution. So I think the future state for research for the enterprise is bright. The new academic programs, I think you know this, but one of the most popular programs we launched a year ago was this program where you can get an MD and a master's in AI. And all of a sudden that's taken off. And we're contemplating a whole bunch of additional things like that as we bring our two institutions together.
I don't know how you keep all these balls juggling in the air, but we have San Pedro 1, and now as we rush to complete San Pedro 2 this year, you have Governor Abbott announcing the cybersecurity initiative that's going to be based in San Antonio that UTSA will play a critical role in. And you have your new College of Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Careers that it will be at San Pedro 2 and incorporate the School of Data Science that's already operating in San Pedro 1. You've managed to bring Dolorosa Street back from the grave, Taylor, and it's only a couple of blocks from here. Here we are at Geekdom. We're very excited about the number of students that are going to be coming out of that college and those two buildings that are going to be A, very entrepreneurial in nature, and B, steeped in the kind of technology that leads to people wanting to engage in startup.
Yeah, I was the luckiest guy in the world when I got here in 2017. My very first conversation as president was 8 a.m. on the first day, September 1st, my birthday of 2017. September 1's got an important moment in my life for the reasons I explained earlier.
Quite a birthday this year.
Yeah, so I met with Red McCombs to talk about athletics, but what I do want to share is that I had a chance to spend time with the county early on and the city early on, and former city manager Cheryl Scully was instrumental in going forward with our plans for downtown because she had spent time in Phoenix and had collaborated with Michael Crow, the president of Arizona State, around their complete reinvention of the Arizona State University presence in Phoenix, this massive migration of existing or new colleges created to be put in downtown Phoenix. And it was a model that, frankly, I've borrowed completely from Michael. He's a good friend. And what we're launching on January of next year is a new college. So San Pedro 2 is coming online in January. Later this fall, we will start to formally bring together a new college of AI, cyber, and computing. And it's going to, bear with me for a second, it's going to have a department focused on computer science with BS and MS and PhD degrees, a software engineering component, a department focused on computer engineering with AI and computer engineering, a department focused on information security and cybersecurity, a department focused on data science and statistics. And so we are creating out of whole cloth a new college that will formally be up and running in terms of people being downtown in the spring semester of 26. And that's going to involve 6,000 people, students, staff, faculty, migrating to downtown to be in San Pedro 1 and a little bit in San Pedro 2 and a little bit of San Pedro 1. And that will be monumental in terms of creating a new college of, like I said, of AI and cyber and computing that's not replicated or evident anywhere else in the United States. So it's very unique and tied to the ecosystem we have here and the demand signal from the private sector and the federal sector about the students that we need to be graduating to meet the demand needs here. And this opportunity to work with the governor's office about bringing a cybersecurity agency for the state of Texas to San Antonio and putting it downtown just adds another bit of huge opportunity for us as we go forward. But we have other things that are happening downtown. Obviously, we are working to bring online our temporary home for the Institute of Texan Cultures. That's going to be going in the new Frost Tower. Construction for that is starting in January, and we'll be opening that up later this year. We're still looking to find a permanent home for the Institute of Texan Cultures, so the opportunities we were exploring before, the location on the Crockett Hotel property, their parking lot property is still under exploration, so we still have plans to develop a new ITC. We are working assiduously to prepare to bring forward a school of hospitality that will be located downtown, presumptively in part in the new hotel that's going to be added to the expansion of the convention center. We have the third property on De La Rosa that we need to develop, and it's probably going to be tied to this new college of AI, cyber, and computing because of our growth trajectory, and we want to be expanding our collaborative efforts with our new cybersecurity agency. If it makes it through the legislative session, we think it will. But obviously, our National Security Collaboration Center is foundational to the launching of this agency, and we have all sorts of partners that we still want to have downtown in our ecosystem. So we're going to have to figure out what we do with the third De La Rosa property, and so we have great ideas there. But we're about to purchase the One Riverwalk place next to the Southwest campus, and we are about to purchase the Classen property on the other side of San Pedro 1. So we are all in on downtown, and the fact that we're going to have a baseball stadium near the Southwest campus is intriguing to us. And the fact that Project Marvel may have a chance to go forward, we're happy to be part of that because we think that role of creating a sports and entertainment district in downtown is important. But as I say frequently, we're all in on downtown. That's one of the most important things that we can do for the future of our community is to continue to remain to be an anchor foundational institution for the city of San Antonio.
And you've absorbed successfully the Southwest School of Art. It's now the UTSA Southwest School of Art. And that particular project also brought some properties under the UTSA umbrella that remain to be developed.
And part of the opportunity is those properties are still available to us to consider how best to make use of our being in that part of downtown. And obviously, the things that we are thinking about making use of for One Riverwalk Place, which is that 18-story building right across the river from the Southwest campus, we have lots of interesting designs, and how we could collaborate with the Tobin Center is one thing that we're thinking about. So our presence downtown, let me go back. I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. So New Haven has Yale University. I went to college in Boston, and Boston has like 10 universities embedded in the fabric of the city. I used to spend a ton of time with family down in Lower Manhattan where NYU is. So, and in all of my perambulations as an administrator at 3 different universities, I've been to all sorts of campuses all around the country. And if I had to pick a place to locate a university that's embedded in the fabric of a major metropolitan area with all of the opportunity, given the size and scale and the challenges and opportunities that each community has, the first place I would stick a university to be deeply embedded in downtown is San Antonio.
Well, I think the hope for many of us is that that downtown campus is going to become San Antonio's Stanford or Palo Alto, and that we can't yet imagine what's going to spin off out from that over the next 10 years.
Yep. And there's a ton of opportunity over at the obviously the South Texas Medical Center. You know, there's a wonderful relationship that UTHealth San Antonio has had with the San Antonio Medical Foundation. There's been a property transfer that allows Discovery Park to go forward. So that's something that creates another opportunity around incubating new businesses that come out of therapy development, drug therapy development, and cancer therapies, and you know, all of the things that are going to come out of this whole focus on precision medicine. So there's a whole bunch of opportunities in downtown at the medical center and even on our main campus to think about in terms of how we continue to advance this notion that San Antonio is actually an education city. It's an innovation city. It's a cybersecurity city. It's the home to what will be a world-class university on the par of the UCLAs of the world or the San Diegos of the world. So it's a playground rich with toys, I guess you could say.
Well, I think you're contributing to the momentum that we have, where there's more and more institutions of excellence operating in the city, and that we need to get away from our self-defeating profile as a city that only has a high poverty rate. And in fact, we're doing things on so many different levels in so many different ways that are propelling the city forward. Later in the spring, Taylor, we're going to have Dr. Jill Flourdier, the dean of the Honors College, on, and I wish you would talk a little bit about the fact that UTSA is no longer the commuter school that people knew from the 1970s and 80s, and that actually there are some very rigorous academic programs there, not just in the sciences and what we've been talking about today, but in the liberal arts and elsewhere, and that people should be looking at the school alongside UT, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and other leading public universities in the state for opportunities for their own children to stay at home and attend the school here.
Exactly. Actually, on day one of merger, September 1, we will be the third largest public research university in Texas. Not quite nipping on the heels of UT Austin and A&M, but we're in the upper stratosphere of institutions. So that's something that we're all contemplating and smiling about, because it's something when I explain the world that way, everybody shakes their head and they go, "We get what you're trying to do now." But I want to give a quick shout out first before talking about Jill. All of higher ed here in town, we all have the same DNA about what we do. We're here to serve our community, about how we educate and prepare young people to go into the workforce and into the world. And a week and a half ago, we had a wonderful meeting with Greater SATX, and Jenna Saucedo Herrera hosted it. And all of the higher ed leaders, public and private, got together, and we're working on this notion of educational attainment for our community, because we need to raise the bar and a few more percentage points to be able to compete with the very best metro areas around the country about attracting companies that are offering high-paying jobs, getting them here. So it's not just UTSA or UTHealth that are at the forefront of this. All of higher ed here in town, Alamo Colleges, A&M San Antonio, Trinity, UIW, everybody's all on board about how we're working together, because we all believe deeply about the power of education for our community. So I think that's worthy of a story that you could run with Jenna at some point. That's worthy of a podcast. But what I want to say, though, because it relates to what I'm about to answer for our honors college, each of our academic institutions in San Antonio does a variant of this. For us, with our accreditor, SAC-COC, with our 10-year accreditation cycle that we're in now, we have a huge focus on experiential learning and classroom to career, because that has such an impact on getting young people through their major, out the door, and hired by the institution that they've been interning at or collaborating with or paid by. And so we have this massive goal. It will be revised a little bit with merger now, but we had and continue to have this massive goal that the undergraduate educational experience for all majors at UTSA would be the signature aspect of it would be some element of experiential learning, undergraduate research, study abroad, experiential learning through service learning classes, or principally internship programs amongst all of the things that you can intern at in the 6 biggest cities. So we're focusing on that, and some of our best programs have direct connection to the honors college that Jill leads. And there are components of the Honors College that involve remarkable young people who blow me away every day about their talent level. I hang out with them a bunch. Some of them end up becoming Archer Fellows and going off under this UT system program to work in D.C. for a semester on the Hill or with a federal agency or not-for-profit. And to be able to spend time with these students is just immensely powerful. Some of them are interning up in the legislature this session, so I get to see, we have 5 or 6 that are up in the ledge right now, and we had a big UTSA, UTHealth San Antonio day at the Capitol earlier this month, and we showcased some of those students. They were just superb, and we're all so proud of them. But it also speaks to the kind of students that we serve. We're an open access institution, basically, with our new financial aid provision for families that have an income below $100,000. You can basically go to UTSA for free. We are dramatically impacting the trajectory of our young people in our community because we're overcoming this final barrier to college completion about financial aid provision. And so some of these things relate to programs in the Honors College and special programs we do in the Honors College. Some of it is emblematic of the entire institution. So you can take the 10 best kids in the Honors College, you can take the 10 best kids from any other college. There's nothing different about these students. They're all immensely talented. And what I've never seen before in all the other universities I've either worked at or visited is that the intensity of focus that our students have at the undergraduate level, most of them are first gen, most of them are Pell eligible, most of them are focused on getting out of UTSA as soon as possible with as little debt as possible and getting into the workforce as soon as possible. They're the most serious students I've ever encountered on the planet. And that's emblematic of the students we admit and who want to go to UTSA. And I think we're differentiating ourselves as a large, colossal public research university still by the fact that our focus on access to education and student success and the way we've really dramatically pivoted around making our undergraduate enterprise this very highly regarded one nationally. I think everybody's paying attention to how we've done it here. And so whether you've done it through the Honors College or College of Engineering or the College of Science, it really doesn't matter. We've got it dialed in for how we go about this, and it's world famous.
That's inspiring. We're out of time, but I hope you'll promise to come back after the merger is completed. Maybe 2026, San Pedro 2 will be open.
Yeah.
Football team will be back in the college playoffs, and we'll have a lot to talk about.
We will.
We'd love to have you back, Dr. Taylor Amey. Thanks for coming on to Big City, Small Town.
Bob, thank you. Happy to come back. It would be an honor and a pleasure. Go Runners.
Please share this episode with friends and colleagues, and do sign up for our new newsletter, Monday Musings. Big City, Small Town is brought to you by Western Urban, building the city our children want to call home, and Geekdom, where startups are born and smart ideas become businesses. Our producer is Corey Ames, video by Erica Rempel, sound engineering by Alfie De La Garza of Sound Crane Audio. We will see you next week.